Hi, I'm Jackie Tantillo, and this is Should Have Listened to My Mother. One of the many affirmations that my guest, career shapeshifter and author Mustafa Ammar uses is, you can only get what you want by having a vision. He adds, concentrate on yourself. He got to know his own insecurities and didn't compare himself to anyone else and found that it was easier to be happy that way. Originally from Egypt and has lived in dozens of countries, Mustafa is the author of Time to Move On, The 7 Career Myths and What to Do About It. He's learned from experience. My guest has had a number of different career opportunities throughout his life, including everything from a pharmacist to a diplomat, an investment banker, and more. He acknowledges all that his mom did for him throughout his life and is here to share these poignant stories of how she helped him get stronger by facing his adversities as she stood by him through all his career transitions. Hello, Mustafa. It's a pleasure to speak with you.
Hello, Jackie. It's a pleasure being with you. Thank you so much.
You have a worldly background. You're originally from Egypt and you lived in many different countries. And now you're in Italy, correct?
Yes, correct.
And let's begin with your mom's name.
Yeah, her name is Najat. Could be pronounced as Nagat as well in Egyptian dialect.
And is she still with us?
Yes,
she's still alive. Okay.
Thanks God. Calling her every day, listening to her voice every day is a blessing.
Oh, it's so great. And where does she live?
Right now, she's in Egypt. She was in London for the last few years. The whole family were there, and then now just went back to Egypt.
Okay. So you mentioned making all these transitions, swapping interests since you were a young boy. So she's kind of used to it.
Yeah, I mean, even as a family, I'm the eldest brother and out of 3 in the family. My parents, since they were young, just newly married, they got me, and then 6 months after that, started traveling. I was very lucky, growing up in different cultures, different countries, in the Middle East and beyond, and this enriched my family's, my parents' life, and enriched mine as well.
And can you tell me, Najat, is there a translation to your mom's name?
Yeah, it means salvation. So, and I see that in her. Like she is my salvation, in this life.
And who would be her salvation? Her parents named her that, gave her that name.
Well, that's a great question, and like my mom was counting on herself since she was 16 years old, so she was the salvation of everybody around her. Her father passed away when she was 6 years old. Her mom passed away when she was 16, and she took care of 4 other brothers and until they all got married and become adults. So I see her the salvation of everybody around her.
So your mom is one of 7 kids?
Yeah, she's one of 7. And then there were 4 other brothers younger than her. She took care of them once, when my grandma passed away.
Oh, so your grandmother helped raise her?
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Wow, how wonderful is that? And she, does she see this angelic shining light over her shoulder on a regular basis?
She's actually cute. I mean, everybody can say about her mom a lot, but I see her cute. A lot of things in positive traits in my personality, I got them from my mom. She has always a smile on her face. She's kind-hearted, and she loves hugging. And I see those 3 traits, I got them from her. I keep them all the time.
Pretty great gifts, huh?
Mm-hmm.
Could you tell us a little bit about her childhood? Did she go to school? Were women allowed to go to school?
Yeah, she went to school back in Cairo, so very close to downtown Cairo. She was born in 1956, so her childhood were around, late 50s and 60s. She went to school until the moment where she had to stop to take care of her brothers. She started working when she was 16 because of that. She had to be the one who takes care of the family. She had to step up. And then she went for a good career. She worked at that time back in Egypt. There were several industries, and she was working in a very, very big company that has a lot of machinery. So she led teams until she got married.
And then did she stay home after you were born and your siblings were born?
When she got married, she had to stop for a while, and then we started traveling. So I was the first child in the family, and then we started traveling. So it was very difficult for her to get back to work. But you could see the energy and the passion that she had for her work or for her brothers when she was taking care of them. Just all of them came to us. You can feel that passion every single day.
I guess she kind of made it effortless, or it made it seem effortless, all that she did.
Yes. Sometimes I feel sad for her because she gets to think about every one of us every single day, whatever problem you have, whatever. I had a back pain, a couple of days back. She just keeps sending me every hour or so, just, how are you feeling? Yeah.
She's your mom. Are you a mama's boy, as we use the expression in America?
I am proudly, I can say so.
Right.
Yeah.
And has it, I don't know if, are you married? Are you single? I don't know what your preferences are or anything, but do you often, when you meet women, do you compare them to your mother as far as attributes?
Actually, it's something I started recognizing recently, that because I'm Cancer, so I'm born 14th of July, and Cancers always want to, the girl that they marry to are exactly a copy from their moms. And early 20s, I never thought of that, but now, yeah, I'm really realizing this. It's true.
Well, hopefully it's all the good parts, right? The good. So what were you like as a young boy, and how often were you changing your direction? I know you wanted to be a pharmacist. You loved chemistry. Was there a lot of frustration in your mom seeing you do this regularly, or is this just something you started when you were older in higher education?
I always recall that situation when I think I was 6 years old. My mom, my dad, and I think a couple of uncles were there, and they were asking me that question, like, what do you want to be when you grow up? And I think my answer was like 5, 6 things. Like I said, I want to be a football player. I want to be an engineer, an astronaut, like 5, 6 things. But the answer I got at that time was like, no. You cannot be all of them. You really have to stick to one. I didn't have any clue. And growing up, I had to conform to the rule. I had to stick to something. And it was really very tough choice, because when you are 16 years old, how do I know, how enough I know about my life and myself and my passion just to decide my own destiny? And I thought at that time that maybe the closest passion to my heart, I would just stick to it until I figure out things. And the answer at that time was chemistry. Graduated, I thought that's not for me. I did study all types of chemistry. It was fun. I love it as a study, but I think I want to pursue something else. The answer, after a long time of reflection, meditation, was diplomacy. And I'm a kind of person, I like to hear my parents. I grew up very conformative. I'm very shy by nature. So I was really the good boy in the family. Like, I was listening a lot to them. But when it came to my future, I really had to decide on my own. So I would say the short answer is I was really finding a lot of hardships in convincing my mom in all my transitions in my careers.
Because you didn't want to disappoint her or let her down or have her be concerned for your future?
Exactly. So I believe that it's my choice, it's my future. But at the same time, I think, why not we can reach a compromise and we can all have a collective decision where I'm happy and you are happy. So that wasn't the easiest choice, but after some time, when I managed to convince my mom and my dad that, okay, diplomacy is the thing for me. Maybe they saw it very hard. It's a national competition. At the end of maybe 2 years competition, they're going to take 20 or 30 out of 2,000. But I was trying to prove to them that I could do it. It's my dream. And as long as I believe in myself and you guys believe in me, I would do it.
When it was time to open up to your parents that you were leaving the sciences, who did you tell first, your mother or your father?
My dad. Yeah.
Oh, your dad. He less scary. He's less scary.
The comparison, I mean, my dad is more logical than my mom. My mom is just an ocean of emotions. So I had to line up my dad and on my side.
Oh my gosh, that's very funny. You had to get him on your side so he would understand the logistics of everything, and then would he break it to your mother, or you would have to?
No, I had to do my own fight.
Good for you.
I had to take care of it, but also it's good in me to take one side first and then speak logically. I like to I'm an emotional person. I grew up very emotional. I had that from my mom, but also I learned later in my life to be more logical. So I like to work on that side first. Like especially in the last career transition, like leaving diplomacy and banking to be my own boss, to have my coaching business, it was very hard for me. So I had really to work hard to get my dad on my side before I reached my mom.
Oh, that's very funny. I love it. And you obviously thought a lot about the process. Can I ask, this is a little sidebar, but I'm curious, when did you start speaking different languages, or how many different languages did you speak in the house growing up?
I love languages. Like, I think since I was 14 years old, I loved the idea of speaking different languages and knowing more about other cultures. I assume the culture element was actually the main attraction for me. Like, I wanted to learn that culture, that language, just to know more about that culture. So if we could say I speak 7, or I learn 7 languages, but different fluency levels. And yeah, they are a bit different from each other.
And you're self-taught, or did you speak some of these different languages at home growing up?
At home, we were speaking like we were a local Egyptian family who were speaking all the time in Egyptian. I had to teach myself all the other languages except Mandarin. Mandarin, I went to study in university to study Mandarin in China.
And you were in South Africa and Malawi for a while. Is that correct?
Yes. I was a diplomat there. So Malawi was the first country that I was serving as an Egyptian diplomat. It was a very interesting experience. I love Africa because also I grew up in Africa with my dad. We traveled to other countries as well, Tanzania, Uganda, and others.
How hard was the transition to leave this glamorous lifestyle of being a diplomat, or so it seems on TV? You're traveling, you're meeting all these people, and I understand it's very competitive. So how many years did you do that for?
I did it for 10 years, from early 2007 to late 2016. The transition wasn't easy, but I did a step ahead without leaving diplomacy. So I moved to banking while I was on leave from the Foreign Service. And that somehow gave me a leap of faith. I would just try something out while not changing completely. In the banking, I work in a bank. It's a multinational bank headquartered in China. It's called Asian Infrastructure Investment Bank. And I was kind of living both lives at the same time. I was still a diplomat. I had diplomatic immunity, working in an international organization. But also at the same time, I was exploring a new profession, new career, investment banker. I was, investing in or finding investments in infrastructure across the whole map, across the whole globe, from Asia to Latin America. Yeah. So leaving both at the same time was the challenging part.
Okay. And did your mom have serious regrets when you said, "Oh, I'm going to go more into banking. I'm leaving this beautiful diplomatic status behind"? What was her reaction to that transition?
No, well, her first question was, "But you are still on leave from your foreign service?" And I say, "Yes." And she said, "Okay, go out and try, but you have to come back."
Oh my gosh.
I say, "Okay." But 4 years later, I did my MBA during that time, and MBA is kind of you're knocking on different doors, exploring different selves, right? And it changed my mind. So I had to go back to her and tell her, "Okay, I'm leaving banking, but also I'm leaving diplomacy," and that was a disastrous moment for me.
Well, tell us a little bit about that conversation, or what happened, if you will.
It took us a while. I think it took me 6 months to convince my mom that my decision was the right thing. I understood earlier, and I had a bit of experience in changing careers and managing my parents. So I knew the right way was to give some bites earlier in the process, like while I'm thinking about something or considering something, I would just, give them something like, "Okay, this is my feeling about this. Wow, that career is very interesting. Or that guy had his own company or his own startup and he's successful," or, just to show them both sides of the story. Until the time I was super ready for that moment. And I just had to face them. My mom was just completely against it. And she used all the power that parents could have in any single culture.
Like what? We're not going to let you come home? I mean, what leverage did she have at this point? Because you're an adult, right?
Like, for example, the culture that I grew up in, I'm Muslim by religion, and I'm in the Arabic region in the Middle East. Moms have a lot of power. Like, for example, one of the sayings of our Prophet is, "The paradise lies below your mom's feet." So it's like it's a kind of, if you want to go to paradise, you have to be below your mom's feet. Also, another saying, which is very interesting, and I like to apply, one of the companions asked him, "Who deserve my friendship? Like, who is the one in this life deserve my friendship?" So he said, "Your mom." And then he said, "Then who?" And say, "Your mom." And then the third time, "Then who?" He said, "Your mom." And then the fourth time, he said, "Then your dad." So learning from all of that and growing up in this culture, yes, they have a lot of power. Of course, obeying them or being kind to them all the time is good. But then also I like to make a line between obeying them and being good kid to them, and on the other side, obeying them in my life, in my future.
Sure.
And I had to be clear in that line. "Mom, this is my future. This is my life. I'm a good kid to you all my life. So don't use that. Don't use that leverage against me, because it will not work."
So is it her fear that you may not succeed, or that you're not going to be able to put food on the table, or you're giving up something way more valuable? All the mom concerns.
Exactly. A career like diplomacy has a lot of benefits, including, first of all, you're representing your country. Your status in the society is really very high. You become an ambassador. You represent your country in many other countries. Plus all the benefits, salaries, financially, it's really very good. So having all of that, plus the stable life that I would have as a diplomat, it really sounds crazy that I'm leaving all of that and just going on my own, doing something else. Mm-hmm. It was hard to convince her that I have my calling. I had the feeling inside me that I really wanted to share that message, those values that I lived my life with and for, and transform my life. And I would feel very selfish if I just kept my position in diplomacy and not sharing that with people around me. So it was hard for her to get that.
Is it also that she was so proud to say my son, the diplomat, versus my son with the MBA?
Yes. But also,
honor, and she was so proud.
Exactly. Like my parents, they were so proud of having their son as as a diplomat, and luckily, thanks God, I was like one of the prominent ones. I was representing my country in the UN in New York, in China, in big countries. But I was trying to address that, and I was telling her that I'm always trying to do my best to make you proud wherever I am. I made you proud when I was in the bank, and I brought investments to Egypt. So I made you proud that way. I made you proud when I was a pharmacist, and I will make you proud again and again.
I'm sure you will. I feel sorry for your two younger siblings. Are they as accomplished as you?
They're very, they are high achievers as well.
I bet they are.
One good conversation I always have with my sister. She's 3 years younger than me. Very interestingly, she said, like, I see you, I take you as a role model. So whatever you do, I try to do something similar.
To replicate, and you're possibly making it easier for her, right? You're a significant role model in her life. Is it the same role for a woman, a daughter, to make these transitions?
I try my best. I don't know. I had this feeling also with my brother. My younger brother is 7 years younger than me. So when I was 8 years old, he was 1 year old. So I had a conviction at that time that I will teach him everything I know so he can have more knowledge than I am.
Wow, that's pretty great.
And he was 7. He has the knowledge of 14 years old. And I kept trying to do that all the time.
Oh, you're a good big brother. How wonderful. And actions speak louder than words, right? As long as I come from a very strong family network. So I always wish that upon, not only my guests, my listeners, but everybody. But not everybody has that. So I understand the significance of the family and how important it is in my life and how it's helped me. I mean, I certainly always have doubts, but it's given me self-confidence in a big way. So I applaud that. So I know you have your latest book that I wanted to talk about in the next couple of minutes, Time to Move On, The 7 Career Myths and What to Do About It. And you most likely, I'm assuming, couldn't have written this book without your path that you've experienced all of these different careers.
Yes, exactly. 100%. Every single step and station and a career in my life enriched the journey. I had a lot of beliefs and convictions which only the hard way I managed to bust them, those beliefs, and turn them into myth. And I would just mention some of them. For example, myth number 1 in the book is you need to be the supreme specialist. Somebody who's specialized in one tiny specialization, stay all your life there, get promoted, and that's the only definition for success. I had a lot of my self-doubt in transitioning to a new career. It wasn't easy, but after doing it a few times, I managed to get the magic behind it and the power behind it. And actually, there is another definition of success I like to call it here in the book a career shapeshifter. And several other myths. I mentioned, like, it's too late to find your dream career, or change is risky, or you have bills to pay, and several others. So this is in a nutshell what I really discuss and distill in the book.
What, really hits home with me is for women, because often if they stayed home with their children, for them to think that, oh my gosh, what am I going to do now? What you just said, you're never too old to change careers. And I think that's really important, because you have to have your mind in the right place. You really have to go in whole hog, as they say, and breathe it and believe it that you can do anything.
I 100% agree, and in that specific myth and chapter on it's too late to change or find your dream career, I mention a few stories of people who are in late 60s who managed to bust that myth. And when people hear those stories, people with a lot of sufferings, and a single mom that has 3 kids and responsibilities and changing careers over career, I think they find a lot of inspiration from those stories.
How important, or how much of your spiritual background has helped you get yourself to where you are, and in these philosophies for shape-shifting careers?
100%. My faith in God, my faith in the universe, and myself were the main beacon in the tunnel, trying to see the other side. And I would just share a daily situation that I used to have every single day when I was trying to be a diplomat. People were coming to me and saying, do you think you are a pharmacist? Do you think this big competition be gonna take you as a pharmacist and leave all those guys, hundreds of people who are much more capable than you? Do you think so? And it made sense. It really completely made sense. But then I used to repeat that to myself and ask myself the same question. But then at the same moment, I ask another question and I say, it's of course impossible for you with my experience as a pharmacist or so, but is it impossible for God? Mm-hmm. And in the same moment, I answer myself and I say, of course, no, it's not impossible for him. And that brings me back to the same point where I say, okay, focus on your part. If it's not impossible for him, just focus on your part. And that's what helped me, along the struggle every single day, my inner doubts, to get to that part and prove to people that I was able to do it.
Yeah, it's listening to the naysayers. It's terrible. And the negative statements, because my mom was a huge believer in Norman Vincent Peale and the power of positive thinking. But it's interesting how those negative thoughts can really creep into your mind and your brain, and they can be so powerful. And only until you focus on the positive ones can they really shake your world. But there's always going to be people that are going to say, I don't know. You think you really should? Exactly. Exactly. Oh my gosh, this has been such a pleasure. Mustafa Ammar. People can find you at, you have thepassionmba.com, that's your website, and mustafaammar.com.
Exactly. And the book can be found on Amazon through also mustafaammar.com.
Time to move on. The 7 career myths and what to do about it. Mustafa, thank you so much for joining me on Should Have Listened to My Mother.
Thank you so much, Jackie. It has been a pleasure. Thank you.
And please say hello to Najat.
I would do 100%. Thank you.
And we'll be back next week with another episode of Should Have Listened to My Mother.